Hello, everyone. Good evening and a very, very warm welcome to this fireside chat on a pertinent topic, designing a tailor-fit approach to employee experience. I'm Pooja Bothra, Senior Content Lead, ETHRWorld, and your host for this session. Much has been spoken about how artificial intelligence, machine learning, and big data can help transform the customer experience. But what about the employee experience? These tools, unleashed by the fourth industrial revolution, can also help ensure employee health and well-being, overcome a one-size-fits-all approach, and equip employers to invest in a proactive instead of a reactive avenues of care. What are the breakthrough innovations in this space, helping organizations achieve mass customization of employee experience strategy, leading to emotionally invested and motivated employees? Dear viewers, in this session, we have leaders from industry who've joined us to share their first-hand knowledge on enabling and empowering the workforce with customized and hyper-personalized employee benefit strategy. We will be taking your questions throughout this session, so do not wait till the last to share your questions. You can see a Q&A chat tab on your screen. Please use that tab to share your questions. We want to make this session very, very interactive for you. So we will take a lot of your questions. Also, feel free to leave comments for the speakers. So without much ado, I would like to now introduce the speakers of this session. Please join me in welcoming Saurav Dwivedi, Partner, Deloitte, India. Pramath Nath, CHRO, Air Pacific and India, Steam Power at GE Power. Priyank Saxena, Senior VP, Health, ACO. Welcome, speakers. So good to have all of you here. When we talk about personalizing employee experience, it all boils down to the fact that organizations today need to have a very people-centric culture. Talent has surely emerged at the center stage for all organizations who are in the path to transform themselves. Saurabh, some thoughts from you that today, why is it so important for organizations to drive a people-centric culture, and how are they doing it?
Thank you, Pooja. Thank you so much for this opportunity, and thank you, ETHRWorld, for this opportunity. I think you've as to kickstart, I think so. This is a very pertinent question, right? Because a lot of our clients that I'm talking to, ask us the question, or give us the objective that why don't you come in and help us create a people-centric organization, and especially in the times of digitalization and transformation engagements that organizations are going through, right? A lot of organizations are talking about keeping employees at the center, right? And rather than using the term employees, let me use the term workforce, because more and more organizations are now exploring alternate workforce as well. So what are the top four elements that I think are required in order to create a people-centric organization culture? First, I'll start with the leadership perspective, right? Say what you mean and mean what you say. A cliched quote, but as long as the leadership team stays true to their objectives, drive initiatives towards those objectives, and are able to achieve that, I think you will be able to get that commitment, get that engagement from your workforce, right? You have to walk the talk, in order to create a people-centric organization culture. That's one. Second is bottom up is the key, right? Gone are the days where you could take decisions in the boardroom and then start imposing those elements within the organization. The mantra right now and the buzzword in this aspect is on co-creation, right? And when you're thinking about co-creation, again, you have to widen your definition of the workforce. You have to think about your regular employees, you have to think about people who are on your payroll, you have to think about your gig workers, you have to think about your people, who are working with you, on contract. You have to think about your external vendors, and partners that you work with, right? And then using a combination of expectations from all of these is, when you can think about, defining the elements of the culture. The third key element, I would say, is looking at employees' preference or workforce preference, right? Earlier, again, as I said, going back to point number two, we used to think, what my employees want, or assess what my employees want. But gone are those days, right? You need to really get down to their employees, their requirements, and then start thinking about what are the things that need to be created within the organization. And the last element, I would say, is around hyper personalization, or N is equal to 1 now, which is, look at tailor-made people solutions, and tailor-made not from an organizational perspective. Give the freedom to your workforce to choose what they need, right? So design your programs in a way that I, as an employee, as a gig worker, as a contractor, can customize the elements, or policies or processes as per my needs, and my preferences, and the life stages that I'm at. I think if organizations are able to blend some of these elements within the organization, they would have started the journey towards a people-centric organization culture.
Very interesting points there, Saurabh, and I totally agree. Leaders have to walk the talk, and also now it's not about top down, but it's more about bottom up. That really brings about the change. When we talk about people-centric culture, it all goes down to improving well-being in the organization. So, Priyank, I'd like to get you now, and I want to ask you, based on your relationship with other organizations that you very closely work with, how are companies approaching well-being from a very holistic angle? Also, to what extent is technology helping organizations personalize well-being and employee benefits?
I think, Pooja, once again, thank you for this session, and making us meet so many gentlemen over here. To answer I think from where you said when you were giving the introduction to the topic, that a one-size-fit-all approach has been a conventional way to look into this entire gamut of things, whether it is employee benefit and all, which, as rightly mentioned by Saurabh also, it has to be now brought down to a point wherein the requirement of each individual needs to be analyzed and understood, and then accordingly plans need to be created, right? And somewhere I would say that coming from insurance, and specifically if I talk of the employee benefit scheme, the health insurance part of it, these discussions have taken definitely, I think they have become very important part of the entire boardroom discussions, especially post the pandemic. A lot of emphasis are now coming on employee safety and well-being, and in some way, insurance has taken a center stage on this aspect, whereby they are aiding the relevant HR stakeholders in terms of designing a lot of benefits program. Now, look into a traditional insurance outlook. The way it used to be, with some very specific defined coverages, which was again a one-size-fit-all approach. Now, these are changing significantly with more focus moving into, I would say, addressing a multi-generational needs through flexible benefits. When I say multi-generational needs, let me clearly specify. So what this would mean? Let's say with an organization with an age band of 25, 26 years to ranging to 40 years to 50 years, the needs and requirement of each of these individuals would be different, whether it is in terms of the insurance coverage or the health and well-being requirements for these people. So hence, addressing multi-generational requirements by designing some flexible benefits, some flexible wallets is what is the need that we have been frequently encountered with. Certain new age covers, covers related to mental health, covers related to the LGBTQ, coverages, gender reaffirmation surgeries, modern treatments, Ayush category of treatments. All these are coverages that are very, very frequently now asked, and it somewhere indicates that the relevant stakeholders in the HR fraternity are not thinking very positively about it. There are discussions on alternate healthcare deliveries models, like telemedicines, integrating with some pharmacies, diagnostics, etc., all to be, well woven within the insurance ecosystem. In fact, we've seen a lot of proposals reaching us wherein people do come back and say that, okay, can we customize the flexible wallet of my employee, and in the insurance of the employee, can I also add a pet insurance? Can I also add a bite-sized cyber insurance for these people? So, all these discussions are these days very, very common, and somewhere I would say, this is changing a complete change in the overview of how insurance coverages used to look 5 years down, from now, or I think even 3 years from now. So somewhere definitely pandemic has also given a lot of change in the thought process of the on the benefit side, but it's only increasing from here. That's what I've been seeing.
Very interesting, Priyank, and it's really good to know the kind of flexibility organizations have at their disposal today to select so many different kind of insurance plans, and so much has really gone into designing, taking note of different requirements of different groups of people. So continuing on the same topic of employee benefits, Pramath, I would like you to share. Insurance is one aspect of employee benefits, and Priyanka has very eloquently told us that how different ways of looking at it is very pervasive in organizations today. But what other factors do go into designing employee benefits today for an organization?
So employee benefit is absolutely contextual, Pooja. It has evolved that way over the last so many years. And look at how employee benefits have evolved. When the need was for roti, kapda, and makan, the employee benefits were at a minimum. Now, today, when the focus is not really of employees on roti, kapda, makan, there is more aspiration. Post-pandemic, particularly after 2020, when there is more self-realization about a wider purpose, a larger family, about people in their late 20s, early 30s, not only focusing on themselves, but also focusing on two other generations, their parents and their kids. So when you have to balance 3 generations and take responsibility and accountability for a wider well-being, the employees also make similar demands subtly within the organization. And the organizations are not reacting to this. In fact, they are anticipating the tide, the flow, and tweaking policies slowly. So I have not seen overnight drastic change in policies. There are some policies which have changed overnight, like caregiver leaves during COVID, where an employee is not suffering from the pandemic, but the family members are, and the family members cannot be shifted to a hospital. So the employee needs time to focus on the well-being. Organizations have come up with such immediate responses, and hence I will not say reactive. These are more timely responses to a particular situation, and hence contextual. But otherwise, benefits have been evolving. Let's take the case of BPOs. And BPOs in the 90s, late 90s, early 2000 till about 2010 were large creators of jobs for educated unemployed people in India. When they came in, they started working on transaction processing, very low end associate level work. But slowly, when they needed to scale up and become global and add value, they realized that they don't have either the experience, exposure, or qualification of a management degree. Now, what happened? The attrition at that level, 0 to 3 years of tenure employees, shot up. And the hiring and recruitment cost compelled employers to do a root cause analysis. And the analysis said that your employee is thinking big. He or she is thinking about the future relevance of his or her career. Why don't you put in interventions like executive MBA program, part-time, weekend, collaborating with management institutes, and sponsor it for a wider group of people so that you make them both role ready for future roles internally, give them a longer career path, and retain them. And that is only one basic example, because I've seen many organizations trying to retain or successfully being able to retain a sizable chunk of employees by such progressive interventions. Similarly, I heard Priyank talk about pet insurance policy. Now, 3-4 years ago, we would have laughed at it. But today it's such a reality, particularly during pandemic, when people have found solace in the company, nuclear families, solace in the company of pets, that the emotional bond has taken it to a different level. And organizations, insurance companies are responding to that space. More so when insurance companies are hard pressed, because if you see claim to premium ratios, it has shot up for all organizations. And it has almost become untenable and unsustainable for both organizations to extend policies beyond the employees, let's say parental cover. And therefore now, and again, I'm referring to your point, Saurav, where you spoke about co-creation. So organizations are working with employees to co-create and maybe embed a 10%, 20% feature of copay, where the employee partly bears the cost, but still the wider family, parents are taken care of. So I think as we are changing the landscape or seeing the landscape change, we are also dynamic and agile across these organizations in India to tweak the employee benefits to suit the context today, to be empathetic to employees, and also relate to a wider audience outside, because your competition is no more internal. There is technology. All of us are knowing what's happening in the outside world. Now look at it when a Bollywood celebrity actress talks about her depression. You see a whole set of people talking about mental wellness. And I can tell you, I can vouch my credibility. 10, 15 years ago, employees were subjected after the offer stage to a pre-employment health checkup. And if mental illness would have surfaced there, trust me, no employer worth his or her salt in India would have touched an employee suffering from mental wellness issues. Look at the paradigm shift and how the outside in approach has changed benefits, has changed outlook. We have become progressive for the good. So that's, to cut a long story short, that's how I think organizations today, Pooja, are thinking about.
Yeah, thank you, Pramath. Saurabh wants to make a point.
Yes, just wanted to add, thanks, Pooja. Just wanted to add to what Pramath just mentioned. I think so pertinent points, and organizations are also realizing, Pramath, I think in a way the demographic shift in the employee base, right? As you alluded to, nuclear families, people moving away from their native places, joining organizations, both the husband and wife working with maybe small kids at home, and all of that, and based on that, the gamut of or bouquet of benefits that are provided to employees now, with at cost or without cost, right? That's an organizational preference, is also increasing. For example, post COVID, suddenly a lot of organizations, some big organizations announced work from home allowance, right? And then suddenly, there were many organizations giving you 15,000, 30,000, 40,000 bucks to set up an office at home, right? Then came, 3 years, 4 years ago, many organizations, started giving you a crash at work facility, right? And then, remote working, they said, okay, now what do we do? And still mothers and fathers were facing difficulties. So they said, okay, we'll reimburse for a nanny, right? So why don't you go ahead and employ a nanny, right? And then so on and so forth, electricity at home, furniture at home, and things like that. So again, it's about I would go back to my previous point. It's about personalization for organizations. I think it's becoming more and more important to give options, to give book a menu card as such to your employees, right? Gone are the days of, again, cut the foot to fit the shoe benefits, right? You'll get only a 3 lakh coverage for insurance, right? You have these 100 options, right? Some free, some at cost, some co-pay, whatever it is, and you can opt for whatever works for you, right? And employees are taking advantage and benefits of these, right? Benefits that are being provided. So I definitely see, especially and Indian organizations going up maturity curve in terms of providing some of these options to their workforce.
Very interesting, Saurabh. When it comes to employee benefits, somehow organizations in India also have a tendency of following what the West is doing. So, there is so much hue and cry about Google offices and Facebook offices and the kind of benefits they have been giving their employees. Like, when I speak to these young people, they only harbor one dream, that is to work in Facebook or Google because they get free food. They have these vending machines wherein they get parts of, digital gadgets of your mobile phones, iPhones, and these kind of things. So, but I guess there is still some time when we can start seeing these kind of things in India. Priyank, you want to make a point?
Yeah, I mean, it's somewhat related to what Saurabh and Prabhat just mentioned about co-creation of the benefits and taking ownership in terms of, both employee and the employer taking participation in the benefit program. I think, and this also comes back to where I was coming, saying previously. Yes, there are multi-generational needs, and we all have seen it. And Pramad and Saurabh also echoed a similar sort of a feeling. I think it's time for our one-size-fit-all movement to choose your plan movement. That's what Saurabh was just saying. I was just hearing it. They were just saying that, why don't you give them a bouquet of services or a products offering or, coverages, which let them choose what they want. I mean, they can be a basic coverage, but then over and above that, there can be 20 things which you may want. And it's available at your cost, at your disposal, but, and you can choose and build your own plan. So how do we do it? I think, Pooja, this is from where you were just asking me a few minutes back, that how can technology help in, arriving at such situations wherein employee well-being and all can be assisted. So I think this is a place where I would definitely believe that digital levers or maybe technology-driven levers in reaching out to the end task force, asking them for their choices, making them customize their plan, out of different options available is the way ahead. And we have been personally experiencing a lot of our customers working in this way. I think at ECHO, we have given solutions to certain clients, in which an employee chooses whether they want to cover parents or parents-in-law, or whether they don't want to cover anyone, right? Whether they want to buy maternity, and if they want to buy maternity, what is the limit that they want to buy? Whether they want to have some EMI protection built into the plan in case of a leave because of some long hospitalization, etc. Of all these benefits, there's a wallet that you can take for yourself, choose your cover, build your plan, and probably go ahead and design your coverages as per what you need. So in one of our customer that we are managing, some 5,000 odd employees and 3,000 different policy constructs. So that is the diversity that we have seen. 3,000 different policy constructs means different variations in terms of coverages that were created. And if that's where I'm saying that I think this is where technology can come in and probably try and sum all these coverages in some fashion, and give you the coverages as so. One, in terms of choosing your plan. Second, in terms of delivering exactly what you have been asking for. These are not possible without a tech intervention.
Thanks, Priyank. I'll just take one of the audience questions now. There's a question from Charan Preet, and he's asking, how can an organization make the employees realize the difference between experience to benefits versus the higher cash in hand? Employees still continue to lean towards higher pay. That's a reality. Saurabh,
Yeah, I can
yes.
attempt to answer that question, but I also know it for a fact, me going through that cycle for many number of years now, and looking at my team members, going through that cycle, and my clients, one will never be happy with whatever compensation they get in hand. Whatever is the amount that gets credited into their account at the end of the month will always be less, and it has to be more. But I think I'll share my experience in terms of what has worked, right? It's more about communicating the total rewards philosophy, talking about not only cash in hand, but also talking about the benefits, talking about advantages that are available to employees as their as the organization provides, right? It's also, I think, there has been an increased level of awareness and maturity from an employee point of view, especially after pandemic, when they've realized that the kind of helplines that are provided, the kind of benefits that are provided from an organization actually will come, are useful in times of need, right? Pre-pandemic, many organizations had launched the helpline, a mental wellness helpline, a spiritual wellness helpline, a physical wellness helpline. But I don't know the statistics, but I'm pretty sure the number of calls made during that time and post-pandemic, there would be a huge change, right? And those are, I think, if you ask me what is the mantra, or how do you make employees realize the value of these benefits, is just communication, and making sure that they realize the actual benefits or the value all of these benefits provide them. But communication, I think Deloitte does it beautifully. There's a huge communication program that runs throughout the year, and we've seen a lot of awareness because of that.
Interesting, Saurabh. Pramath?
So Saurav has given such a fantastic reply, particularly around the total rewards philosophy. I wanted to add something on a lighter note, and allow me, Pooja, to do that. I remember 2 months ago, the President of India also lamented the impact of income tax deduction on his salary. And it came out in a big way in the press. So I think that the messaging was that we need to realize that IT is a necessary evil. It will be deducted for the wider good of the country. But today, most of the progressive organizations have a basket of choices in terms of allowances, where one can play and ensure that the net take home, to the extent possible, goes up. But Saurav again made a great point, particularly citing the pandemic and how the pandemic was a savior in many instances. So I think it's also about organizations' responsibility to convey to the employees that saving is equally important. For many of us, there is no state-sponsored pension available, right? And these savings eventually will come handy during not only our post-retirement days, but also during rainy days, which can come anytime, and the pandemic has taught us that. So I think organizations' responsibility coupled with individuals' responsibility to understand this.
Interesting. Money saved is money earned. So, savings always go a long way. And Saurabh also mentioned communication, and we've got some more audience questions, where there are aspiring HR leaders who are talking about tips and techniques. So communication is very important for employee experience, employee well-being benefit. Moving on, Priyank also mentioned about how digitalization is helping to streamline multiple insurance policies, give the flexibility, also empower people to select. But digitalization and technology also has a flip side. It makes you lose the human touch. So when you talk about employee well-being strategy, how do you balance between high touch and high tech? To what extent are you using digitalization to empower employees for employee experience, or is it, too much technology also becomes a problem? Saurabh?
Okay, let me.
Yeah, sure, Priyank, go on, Priyank,
Yeah,
please.
because I agree, Amit, Pooja. So while it's a digital first with everything sort of a word, each user, each consumer is seeking some efficiency, which I think today it means that, while we may sometimes prefer an online connection, but it's always in addition to us wanting to speak with someone directly. So even if I today use my mobile application for some banking purpose, and I do some transactions, I'm always inquisitive till the time that is reflecting on the app. I'm always inquisitive to speak to someone that, hey, did you receive any details on the transactions and all. So I think that is probably that's how we all are built in, and that's how I think every one of us thinks about. So while technology is important, I think putting some human touch to the technology levers is equally important. Okay, so definitely we agree that. So what we try and do and how we are trying to strike some balance in this aspect is like, so while entire health insurance customer base that we today do is serviced on technology enabled mobile application, right, which gives them convenience to retrieve e-cards on the go, check out cashless, do some claim filing, etc. on the app itself, paperless. Add-on benefits like teleconsult, pharmacy, etc. Everything given over there. But in addition to this, we have not gone away with the conventional way, and we still say that on the app itself, or from the app itself, or maybe through some, through some dedicated mobile numbers or customer center, there's always a person sitting in my call center who is able to assist the end user whenever they feel that they want a human touch, or they want some immediate resolution, or they want something that someone should handhold and just speak to them. So there's always that human touch that is available. So I think we would somewhere be needing that balance to be drawn in this entire presentation or proposal that we give, and I think we have been trying to do that, whether it is through health call centers or maybe dedicated teams servicing certain customers and all. So that balance is being maintained in the entire proposal that we
Yeah, and can I add, Pooja, to this?
Yes, please.
I think a short answer to your question is you need technology. Digital has to be there. It will give you the ability to reach the last mile, right? But the choice of human touch or no human touch has to be again left to the employee themselves, because here when you're talking about health and wellness, right, many times employees would want to keep it, the reason why you have third parties, you have confidential helplines, is because employees do not want to share that kind of information maybe with the employer, right? Now, how much of that information comes back to the organization and how do you use it, has to be left with the employee themselves, to say that, okay, this is where maybe I need to have a chat with my manager, this is where I need to have a chat with HR, and how much of that sharing actually needs to happen. Again, the choice, the preference has to be left with the workforce segment, rather than pre-deciding how much high tech, low touch the process has to be. But technology is a given. You won't be able to provide the bouquet of services, benefits, and administer them effectively if you don't have the right digital interventions.
Thanks, Saurabh. I'll just take one audience question here. So Sangeeta is asking, wanted to know a list of new age benefits that are a buzz in the industry today. Some new age benefit examples for the workforce.
I think we discussed some of them, in while answering the previous question. It's again, the work from home allowance, the electricity allowance, the nanny allowance, all those allowances or benefits that are being given. Certain legacy organizations have also gone ahead and included same-sex partners in life insurance policies, maternity, paternity, caregiver leaves, right? These are some latest things that have cropped up, I think so, post pandemic. But I would look to Pramath also to see if he has some new buzzwords with him.
Yes, and to that also, Pramath, it'll be great if you add, even though organizations, especially MNCs, come up with so many different kinds of employee benefit, yet the attrition rate, continues to rise. So there is also somebody from the audience who would like to know that, how do these not translate into attrition rate going down? So I wish you all had a magic wand, but some tips and techniques would be useful.
So on the first part, the unique new age policies, I wouldn't want to add anything beyond what Saurav ended with, because those are practically what is mostly seen. There may be some peculiar or fancy ones, but I think we need to restrict ourselves with whatever is useful for the wider set of population. As far as the question on attrition is concerned, it is a quintessential problem, and it is going to be so. And I think we have to also take it in a positive stride, because why is attrition there? Is it only push, or there is ample pull? So if the economy is growing, if there are opportunities, and if the economy is a political economy, means there are opportunities available, there is a dynamic of supply and demand, there are talent which are niche and not easily available, or there is young talent which can then grow as far as compensation is concerned. I think this is not at all a bad thing. And this is a different perspective. For some organizations, some attrition is always good, because then that gives you the leeway to change the demography, the composition, and reduce cost. Because typically you strategize that if a person is leaving, I'll replace him or her with a person who is slightly junior in tenure at a slightly lesser cost, so that I can give that person also a career path. Right? So that is one perspective. The second perspective is we need to do root cause analysis as far as attrition is concerned, because there can't be one solution. A good set of benefit can never be huge differentiator. Right? There are multiple levers. Career is one lever, coping with the role is another lever, compensation is another lever, the community I work with is another lever. How is my immediate manager? Huge thing. How am I feeling as far as my role is concerned, and how much of pressure do I have, right? And on top of it, if you look at the multi-generational workforce, and if you do a slice of organization, of attrition in the organization, the 40 plus population is the one where the attrition is least. Why? Because they are tending towards their self-actualization phase. Why is it highest between 0 to 3 or 0 to 5 years of tenure? But that's where the action is. People are slightly more abrasive in taking impulsive decision and joining at a 5, 10, 15, 20% hike. There is peer pressure, there is aspiration, and multiple reasons. So I think we cannot brush it completely with one paint. There has to be a root cause analysis. Every organization needs to see how much of attrition is good attrition, and then how to attack it where it is in different pockets, and then solve it. Pooja, back to you.
Thanks, Pramath. A lot changed after the pandemic, and now that we are, in the third wave, and once again, the medical infrastructure is facing the pressure, and lots of employees require medical health, medical intervention. Priyank, I would like to ask you, in the post-COVID era, physical and mental medical needs have multiplied drastically for all. What measures have you seen the HRs of your clients' partner organizations take to extend support to the workforce with the ever-increasing demands for themselves and their families? Priyank, I request you to unmute yourself.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I think, Pooja, see, physical well-being has always been into existence since the beginning of this, era, and it has scored reasonably well between the HR fraternity. I think that's something that people are quite happy with the way it was there. Now, with this hybrid work model, definitely there is a focus on more of digital assistance, tracking, rewarding employees, asking or trying to integrate, wherein we can strike a balance between mental well-being and a physical well-being in the overall insurance constructs that we do. Even if you see parallelly, modules on, I would say, a lot of fitness-related videos, HRAs, etc. They have been also as part of the discussions into the insurance domain, and I think they have helped keeping a check into the employees' health. And we've seen that with fitness enthusiasts have never given it a miss despite the pandemic restrictions and the lockdowns also. Now, on the medical side, I would say, so insurance covers have become much more robust today with respect to a wider coverages. And as I was speaking earlier, coverages that are going beyond, let's say, modern age related treatment, LGBTQ covers, gender reaffirmation. So these are add-ons, things that have been asked. But I think more than that, there are discussions around mental well-being as a very important part. So while we see coverages seek on the mental well-being side on both IPD and OPD basis, there are some only on IPD or on a standalone OPD basis. Teleconsultation, I would say, here has played a very, very important role because this gives the employee a personal private window to consult with a counselor, on a one-on-one basis, where there is no mass discussion that's happening on a wider level. So these are few of the things that we have been actually seeing which are coming back to us in terms of the requirements. I mean, I would still say that undoubtedly mental well-being has been discussed comprehensively over last maybe little over 1 year, I would say. And we have witnessed that people are now coming out and actually talking about this. However, I mean, there is still a lot of road that needs to be covered in this aspect. We're still evolving as humans, as individuals also on this. But I think with this, there was definitely an additional responsibility of creating an equal ecosystem for the employees, for their loved ones, so that they can feel comfortable in using these assistance or using these services that have been offered. So I think having insurance benefits around mental well-being, like therapies, behavioral counseling, psychologists, consultations, I mean, these are helpful, and these have been very much in demand. We've also seen some discussions around, let's say, EAP, so which are so there are vendors trying to do a personalized EAP solution for you, and again, insurance is one distributor model that they have been trying to use in such to reach out to a lot number of corporates and customers and employees for that matter. I think this, supported by a robust communication, will definitely be essential for the overall corporate health and the individual employees' health in times to come. So I think these are few of the lead asks that we are getting from leading organizations, and we're trying to support our clients in best ways, in all these aspects.
Very interesting, Priyank. I just hope that, the stigma that is attached to mental ill health, in our country, it's high time we learn how to overlook that, because still people hesitate to seek help. Sometimes people also do not know how to give help. So, there is really a lot of awareness that still is pending in this manner. Yeah.
So of all the teleconsultations usage that we have analyzed of all large customer base, you would be surprised that majority of them actually are belonging to this category, to the mental counseling. I mean, we do get statistics around these counseling that, how much consultations are being done by a corporate, by an employee, though we don't share the individual employees' details, but we definitely give a dashboard or a statistics to our corporate that, okay, look, this is where you are. We're seeing a lot of traction by our employees. Employees are looking forward to ask on these things. So then 2 topics. One, definitely, I think the mental well-being is the one that is most commonly being asked, followed by a lot of queries that we saw on COVID-related assistance programs. So these are 2 essential features that at least last 1 year we have seen.
Yeah, and sorry, Pooja, but I won't be surprised if the statistic, Priyank, is valid more so, post-pandemic statistic, because what we are also seeing and observing and having conversations on is the psychological effect that this pandemic has had on the workforce as a whole, right? I think first year went in all in the hurrah of work from home, and we're free, and we don't have to travel. I can be back at my native place. But I think as this is continuing to grow and come back in phases and all that, especially with the euphoria that many people faced a month back, saying that okay, return to office, people, offices and corporates are going to open up, and you can come to office. And then again, lockdown type situation has come up. I think there are increased number of cases, at least in our team, that we're seeing, right, in our profession, that we're seeing, where this has had a long term psychological effect on people, and therefore more and more people requiring you know assistance on mental wellness issues.
Yeah, I totally agree. These water cooler conversations that have been taken out from our lives, it's actually left a dent. And most people now, with this digital relationship, you don't have real relationships, and you have nobody to talk to and listen to. So this is really going to increase. And I'm very happy to know that, Priyank, that, Aqua has these kind of tools also available in these apps that you have. Pramath, I'd like to ask you a very, very important question, since we have got a lot of, mid-level HR leaders in this session, who've logged in to watch this session and hear you. Would like to know that what is the best strategy to optimize your HR investments, when it comes to providing tailor-made employee experience, well-being, benefit. What is a strategy you use to optimize HR investments?
It's a great question. In fact, never heard about it, never thought about it. So absolutely a great question. So I think, again, and I'll respond based on the situation that we are all operating in, because we never anticipated this. But the world has been, and particularly the HR profession globally, has been extremely agile in its response. To me, and that's how I operate, and that's how I encourage my organization to operate, is to intertwine the workforce strategy with the workplace strategy. Because today we spend a lot of money in beautifying our offices, investing in the offices. There are capex expenditures which we have put in. There are then operational expenditure, there are overheads. And if you actually look at it, these are huge expenses, because every employee, and Pooja, you mentioned a comment where you said every aspirant of a job wants to be in Google. And why? Because of the workplace that Google offers, because of the policies, the flexibility in policies they offer. But we don't realize that Google is a monopoly. There is no Microsoft, there is no Yahoo. They were all left behind by Google 10 years ago. Right? So there is no competition. They decide everything. Whereas 99.9% of organizations which run based on fair competition, and in which people like you and all of us here are employed, the competition reduces the margin, and eventually it becomes a cost revenue game. So as HR professionals, it's also important that we do not talk only about cost pressures and then have policies which are fancy but not affordable in the long term. So therefore, affordability comes from cost optimization around the workplace strategy. So today, when Saurav was talking about offices being rationalized, office space being optimized, that's how I'll recommend that you save cost there and divert it for the benefit of your employees. Now, whether you do it in the form of one-time home office setup expense, or recurring broadband and internet reimbursement expense, or enhancing the employee benefits around Mediclaim or cash at hand, is solely your call. But then HR needs to strategize one aspect towards benefit. The second aspect has to be channelized towards ensuring a wider career architecture to the employees. Because for each one of us, what is important is not merely what we are doing today, but also how do we evolve over a period of time? How do we enrich ourselves, our roles, and outgrow the job that we are doing today and be role ready for something bigger tomorrow within the organization. That is the second aspect of HR. And then how can HR do that today in a hybrid environment is by leveraging technology. So whether you had initially gamification to start, let's say, onboarding or training programs, today, because you are remotely functioning, you can't do gamification. So you focus on AR, augmented reality. And then you make sure that you have simulations which keep the employees also interested in the work that they do and which brings a real life situation to the employee, because then they learn, they bring themselves up to speed, and they also work beyond their silos in a more collaborative environment. So that's how I will optimize the cost that is given to me to run my budget. In fact, and I'll stay put here because it will entail a lot of discussion thereafter. But technology as a platform, from onboarding to performance management to learning intervention, can be a solution in today's time while yet focusing on cost and optimizing it. Pooja.
Thank you, Pramod. These are very valid points, very insightful. I'm sure the audience is making note of it. I'll just take one more audience question. This is from Ayushri, and she's asking, now the organizations are also putting a lot of effort on DE&I. How can we create an inclusive workforce and an impactful effort to kind of make them feel inclusive as well? How unconscious bias and microaggression affect the same?
Let me take that, and maybe Saurav, Priyanka, I'll request you to add. Again, few years ago, these were new concepts. And let me tell you, India is following West in terms of this, because we have bigger problems, we have bigger hygiene problems to face. There were social stigmas around it. But it's not that I'm a fan of movies and hence I'm saying, but look at how things are picturized in a lot of movies. Let's take the case of a recent Hindi movie, Chandigarh Kare Asiki. In that movie, look at how the hero has been transformed and converted to an advocate, right? That is only a personification of this wider problem. Now, let's take it back to the organizations. And let's see how we are trying to sort it in many of the organizations, including ours. I think you have to do it in a piecemeal basis. Awareness is key. First, awareness around the wider philosophy, because not everyone, each one of us have not been educated at home. These are still taboos and stigma to talk on dinner tables in the families. There is no school education or college education which prepares us. So eventually, it's an adult education that we go through during our stint with progressive organizations. So awareness is key, awareness around these topics. And I'll tell you a startling number. In one of the organizations that I worked for, a very premier consulting firm, there we did a survey and came to know 8% of our employee base had LGBTQ tendencies, and it was hidden. And none of the policies really catered to that huge group. Now you're talking about close to 10% and no policy. So then we started with awareness, then focused on E, which is equity, more equity driven policies to suit and cater to this group of people. And then we started inviting panelists from outside and sharing experience with naysayers, with people who did not understand the concept, and then the challenges that they faced. Then we realized that we were so cut off from the realities and vagaries of the world that at times it made you feel guilty. So I think you need to do a whole lot of things, from panel discussions to open discussions to policies to empathy show to sessions on unconscious bias, and then do it over a period of at least 1 to 3, 4 years time frame, to be able to be role ready and to talk it with pride, to participate in events such as pride marches with pride, and then to side with people. So once you start doing it openly, once you start hiring people with these preferences and then giving them a spot in the sun on various platforms in the organization, and that's where you have a mindset change. I see Saurav's hand raised. So let me pass it
Yeah.
on.
Yeah, no, thanks, Pramod. I think really, really interesting facts. But the reality also is that in India, right? I think Pramod, you're talking about DEI from a broader perspective. But most of the Indian organizations right now, when they don't talk about DEI, they talk about DNI, right? And when they talk about DNI, mostly what they're trying to achieve right now is gender diversity, right? But in India, as large as we are, right, and as diverse as we are, we not many organizations definitely are talking about LGBTQs. Not many organizations are talking about diversity from the point of view of PWDs. We are not talking about the religious caste creed, all that kind of diversity, although that exists in organizations in India, right? You go to an organization in south of India, you would find the leadership team being from south of India. You go to an organization based out of west of India, you would find the leadership team being from west of India, right? These are all unconscious biases that are there in the organization. Nobody is aware of it. Nobody wants to talk about it, right? And north of India, the same thing, right? You would find a lot of people from. So I think first of all, as an organization, think about what DEI means for you, right? And as Pramad said, take it incrementally. Don't boil the ocean. Don't try and become the Apple of the world or the Facebook of the world, where DEI is ingrained, and they have taken steps through multiple number of years, right, to promote DEI. So define what DEI is for you, define your priorities right now, look at how will you actually increase your maturity when it comes to DEI scale, and then take concrete steps, right? And it will take a lot of effort, not only for HR folks of the organization, but the business leaders, right? This DEI has to be top driven, right? It has to be an excess of communication across the organization. And then, making sure that when you start hiring people with diverse backgrounds, in the truest sense of diversity and inclusion, is, when you start seeing your DEI maturity going up within the organization, right? I've seen um, personally, I've been part of a lot of engagements in the last 2 years where we are looking at the DEI maturity of organizations. Sad to say, India is I think just starting on that journey, right? We are nowhere, as compared to West. So there are a lot of things that Indian organizations, MNCs in India as well as Indian organizations need to do from a DEI perspective.
Yes, Pramath, you want to make a point?
Yeah, so I'll just add, I think for organizations which are beginning on this journey, the easiest thing to do is to focus more on inclusion first. And how can they do that? All of us can do it. There are junior folks, both by tenure and experience in the organization, who are given no time to talk on calls or in meetings. So as senior leaders, as HR professionals on this call, first step is to ensure that you hear even junior most employees and allow them the opportunity to talk in meetings. Like, make the workplace more inclusive first. Right? That is one simple step with which we can start, and which is also easy to do.
Totally agree. Priyank, you mentioned, that you have insurance policies that also act as a leveler, and it is more inclusive in nature. To what extent is insurance benefit leveler for DE&I in workplaces? Any thoughts?
Yeah, I think Pooja, the only feature that comes to up as under this component is asking for an LGBTQ cover. That's it. That's the most common cover that we have been asked of lately, that employers are asking. And I would say, if I look into the size of the employers, I think as low as a 50-60 employee company to as high as a 5,000 employee company, there have been asks on these parameters from virtually every employer nowadays. So in a way, there is a inclusion policy or a philosophy, but is it translating into actual inclusion, or is it translating into actual usage? As Pramod mentioned, that are we actually practicing it, is a question mark that we really need to ascertain it. Is it just a check in the box that, okay, I also have a policy which covers same gender partners? Or is it actually being implemented and there's some quota reserved for these people? Is a question mark that probably that organization cannot be answered. But yes, we are seeing those covers being asked. Coming to the gender reaffirmation surgeries and all, I think these are covers that are very, very selective even till now, because of the cost associated and to some extent because of the stigma associated. People, even if they want, they don't come out for these things. I mean, no sum insureds can actually give the entire cost benefit of such procedures to an individual because those are highly expensive. So from that aspect, these are, those I feel are more a check in the box unless and until they are practiced at the ground.
True. So we have made a start, but there is a huge leap that is required in this field. And, till now, our workplaces, there are, various groups which are underrepresented. Various economic backgrounds, tier 3, tier 4 cities. And like Pramath said, inclusivity is the key. The more we make our workplaces inclusive, the more we make our well-being and employee benefit initiatives broad-based and holistic to appeal to more people, more your whole workforce, rather than a small sector of your workforce, the more inclusive our workplaces will be. I'm conscious of time, so we've come to the end of this session. I thank all of you for taking out time and joining us for the session. And I'll just conclude by saying, in business, there is no one size fits all when it comes to employee benefit initiatives and programs. Every organization and individual's needs are different. By tailoring programs to engage employee interests and increasing awareness to drive program usage, organizations realize improved outcome and increased business performance. Thank you from entire ETHRWorld's team for joining us today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.